I know it hurts sometimes, but you'll get over it. You'll find another life to live. I swear that you'll get over it.
Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Unrooted Women's Basketball Edition. And my guest for this week's show was none other than sophomore guard on the women's basketball team, Alexis Delovio. Alexis, thanks so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Let's start by getting to know you a little bit better. First off, this is not the Alexis Delovio that we saw at the beginning of the season or even during Headshot Day for the graphic that I have played at the beginning of this show. You dyed your hair. What brought on the change mid-season?
Well, I like change, good change of course,
Okay.
and I feel like I'm always up for good change, but I haven't really had the time to do so up here, so when I did go home for break, I knew I had to get a change, so I went blonde.
Did it catch anybody by surprise?
It even caught my parents a bit surprised when they first watched our online preseason game. They didn't recognize me at first, and they called me after, and they were like, "Did you play, or where were you at first?" But then it took them a while to realize that I was still me, but just in blonde.
Yeah, I didn't notice it until you guys got back into conference play and you played at home. And the first time I saw you warming up, I looked on the floor and I went, "Who's that? We have a new player on the oh, wait a minute. That's Alexis. She dyed her hair blonde. It looks good."
Thank you.
Now, this is your second year here at Menlo, but the first one kind of had a special beginning to it. You didn't play in any of the games early on in the season until the tournament in Hawaii right before Christmas. How special was that for you to get to play in your home state to begin your collegiate career?
Well, going home is always really nice. Home is so warm and comfortable for me. It was really exciting for me to go home and play in front of a home crowd, especially like seeing familiar faces. It always makes me feel like I have to play better, or I do play better. But it was exciting for me to show the girls where I'm from, show them my home, and I still can't believe that I'm from Hawaii. Like, I will never get over it. And yeah, it was really exciting for me to show them where I'm from.
And it certainly also helps when you guys pick up a couple of wins when you're out there.
Right.
And then going back again this year,
Right.
doing the same thing, taking down the third-ranked team in the nation. That's always fun. Now, you're one of the best assisters in the entire conference, and you had a whopping 8 of them on Saturday against Jessup. Where did you learn this selfless style of play?
I feel like ever since I was little, I've been taught that basketball is a team sport, and it's played the best when you include all your teammates and everyone's playing together. And I like to get everyone involved on the court. So
It just goes hand in hand,
Yeah.
and right now you're in the top 5 in the GSAC in assists and assists per game.
it's awesome.
Free throw shooting, steals. You kind of do it all for the Oaks, and that's why you're so valuable. Now let's talk a little bit about the team now. Saturday's game against Jessup was a pretty interesting contest from start to finish. The Oaks were trailing the first 3 quarters of the game until you pulled ahead and blew them out of the water in the fourth. What changed during the final 10 minutes of the game?
I feel like our momentum picked back up in the fourth quarter. We were a little down, but once our momentum did start to pick up and we started to roll in hot, like there's really no stopping us. Just like in every game, when our momentum starts to pick up, it's pretty hard to stop us, but yeah.
Usually it's just one big shot, one big defensive play,
Right.
something like that is
Right.
always...
And we're hot.
is always flipping the script for you guys. And what impresses me a lot about this Oaks team is the ability to play defense. Because last year's team was good defensively, but this year's team is great defensively. How have efforts on that side of the ball changed?
Well, last year we did have a difficult defense that had hard rotations. It was really hard to rotate out of it and rotate back in. But this year, I feel like when we're matched up, we're all we have good strength in every position. So when we are matched up, I feel like we're pretty solid defensively. And I feel like this year we also have a lot better communication, which is key on defense. And I feel like when we're communicating well and when everything ties in with communication, like the drop side help or like whoever's closing out, where to be, like where you should be, I feel like our communication is really well, and that's why our defense is really well this season as well.
And I'm for sure that last year's team, it was certainly a growing process because you had a couple of players who had been here for a few seasons, but then you also had a lot of new talent coming in.
Right.
Junior transfers, freshmen like yourself last season. So I'm sure communication now here in year 2 better. Year 3 is going to be even better than that, and it's just going to keep looking up for the Oaks. Now, what is it on the offensive side about flying up and down the court that gives you guys such an advantage over every other team in the GSAC? Because let's just face it, no one can run with you guys.
Right. I feel like our bigs are really good at running up and down the court.
Yes.
Like a lot more than you would think bigs would. And I feel like our guards are very good at finding the openings and finding good positions to set up our bigs in. And I feel like that's why we are so good in transition. And that's why we like to push so much.
Yeah. And the bigs, the forwards, able to move up and down the court so quickly because you can rotate a lot more than most other teams because you have 4 solid post players when you look at, when healthy, Destiny and Madison and Aaliyah and Alyssa. Like, everybody is solid 1 through 4 in that category. So you can afford to play the 2 who are coming off the bench more because, you're not losing any production.
And sometimes I feel like they do get up and down more, a little more than I do. The bigs.
More than you? That doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to push it up a notch.
I do have to start pushing myself a little more.
Exactly, yeah. Come on, do a few more sprints in the gym before practice, or before the game during practice. Arizona Christian, they're one of the only teams, really, I think, in the conference, maybe even the nation, that can play as fast as you, and you battle with them on Saturday in Arizona. How will that game be such a big challenge for you?
Sometimes when we face tougher teams or when we're not doing as well, I feel like it's because we focus a lot on that team and what they're doing. But I feel like when we focus more on how to perfect our game and how to be sharp in our game, that's when we really come out to perform. So what'll be challenging is just focusing on our game and just coming out to play our game and be sharp,
not letting them dictate how it's going to go.
Not letting them dictate how we do, but run what we do. We've been practicing their plays, and I think we're really, during practice, and I think, we're really doing good how to counter their plays and how to go off of that.
Yeah.
So.
And they run at a similar tempo as you, so you
already
see
they're
that.
They're a tough run and gun team, but I feel like we're prepared and we're ready.
Exactly. Now, this is the first road trip in a couple of weeks for this team. You spent the last couple of weekends here at home. In the middle of a season, how do you ladies bond on these weekend road trips?
How do we bond? I feel like we bond doing everything we do together, and I feel like we really enjoy each other's company. So I feel like just hanging out and enjoying each other's company is how we bond over these trips. We don't really do anything
other than
crazy,
play basketball.
other than business trips.
That's what they are. It's a good way to look at it. All right, Alexis, let's get into the final segment of the show. It's called Brownie Bites. I'm going to ask you 3 random off-the-wall questions. You give me your best answer.
Okay.
Question number 1. Which teammate would most likely be labeled as having butterfingers?
Butterfingers. I would say maybe AB. AB likes to play with nice nails, so I feel like sometimes that does allow her to have butterfingers, but yeah.
Okay. I would my alternate answer for that was going to be Jessica Rogers.
Jess?
Yes. And I can't believe I didn't ask her this when she was on last week on the show, and I'm now kicking myself for that. Because a couple of weeks ago, somebody, don't remember who it was, had said that she likes to grow out her nails.
Grow out her nails?
Yes. Is that true?
I'm not sure.
I think somebody, who did I just interview a couple of weeks ago? Oh, I have the list right here. Carly. Carly said that.
That Jess likes to grow out her nails?
Yeah. But I think in the off season. I think it's specifically in the off season.
Well, in the off season, we actually all like to do our nails.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to ask Jess.
Okay.
If she likes to grow out her nails or not.
Good. Give me an answer on that, because now I'm curious to find out. Question number 2. Which teammate most definitely should not dye her hair like you dyed yours?
Dye her hair? Let's see. I would say Lena.
Okay.
I think Lena has really pretty natural hair, but I could not see her with the color blonde.
Yeah. It would also set her quite a ways apart from her sister.
Right.
And they look awfully similar.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know if she wants to go for that big of a drastic change. Question number 3. Which teammate is most likely to open up a dog hotel?
Easy, Mads.
Dog lover?
Yes, she has 3 dogs right now that live with her, and she said one sleeps right here, one sleeps in between her legs, and one sleeps like behind her head
as a pillow.
And every time we travel, every time we go out, she'll point out every dog, and I feel like she would definitely open up her own dog hotel.
I'm surprised that only 3 dogs.
Right. Well, she has her mom's dog, and she has, I think she her dogs had babies as well, but she got rid of them. But right now she has 3 of her own dogs.
So she's that person who, when you guys are out, stops and
every time.
will
Every
go
time.
up to every single
Every
dog.
time. Mm-hmm.
Good to know. All right, Alexis, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, folks. The women's basketball team is on the road this week. They are traveling down south, San Diego Christian College on Thursday. That's a 6 o'clock contest. That will have already been played by the time this episode airs. And then Saturday is the big one for the Oaks on the road in Phoenix as they take on 24th ranked Arizona Christian in what could be one of the highest scoring games of the entire season down in Phoenix. Tip-off of that one starts at 2 o'clock before the men's game at 4. Then the Oaks will be home to begin February. We invite you to tune into next week's show, and Alexis Delovio will select the next interviewee here on Unrooted Women's Basketball Edition with me, Brian Brownfield. Until then, we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
I know it hurts sometimes, but you'll get over it. You'll find another life to live. I swear that you'll get over it.